process. That is the gist of what they published, Chronicle, on the 2nd of August, I think it was. Now, I felt compelled because they mentioned my name. They mentioned my name at the time I was chairman of the Police Service Commission, and Nandlall is alleged to have said a lot of stuff in the paper. So I felt compelled to respond. So I wrote a letter, which was published in Stabrook News and Kaicho News Sunday, a couple days ago. And it is interesting to know that the letter was also sent to Chronicle, and they did not publish the letter. I did not expect them to publish the letter because that is what they are. They are a propaganda unit, and they are not going to deal with facts. So they don't want to hear the truth. So they just carry a story based on what Nandlall said. And when I pointed out certain inaccuracies in Nandlall's, what he contended, they didn't carry that. But I did not expect them. But I also put it on my this social media pages, speaking out, exposing corruption and incompetence, and my personal Facebook page. So it is there for people to see. It is there for people to see. Now, having regards to that, Nandlall yesterday has a letter in the newspaper. I saw it in Stabrook News, it's in Kaicho News, and somebody sent the Chronicle version. They did a story of it. I don't think they published the letter, but they did a story with what Nandlall is saying. And it says, I have the letter here. As I said, somebody said, now let me go through this thing. First of all, let me see. I live rent-free in Nandlall's head. And let me pronounce his name correctly, Nandlall. You know, all the time you were saying Nandlall. It's not Nandlall, it's Nandlall. I only realized that last week, and I said, I hope the man didn't sue me for mispronouncing his name. I recognized only last week is Nandlall. So we used to always say Nandall. So let me correct myself and say, Mr. Attorney General, I did not intend to mispronounce the name. Attorney General Nandlall. Right? I live rent-free in Nandlall Head, and it is not a nice place to be. It is not a nice place, right? It is an infected place. I know because I'm a tenant there rent-free. And why do I say that? In the he jumped Slowe. He said in the letter, he said that what? He started out by saying false narrative. Well, let me say this up front. This first statement by him, or the first sentence, I agree with him fully. I never thought he would have said that. And what he says, let me read what he said in the first sentence. False narratives on matters of public importance must never be left on the public record unrepudiated. I agree with you, sir. I agree. And let me read that back. False narratives on matters of public importance must never be left on the public records unrepudiated. And that is why I'm going to respond to what you was published today. I'm going to respond. As I've said, I live rent-free in this man. The man never missed an opportunity to talk about Slowe. And let me tell you all this, if you believe it's joke American. When in 2021, they brought trumped-up charges against me, trumped-up charge against me, charge against Conway and other police officers for conspiracy to commit fraud. I traveled to Guyana in October of 2021. The charge was filed on the 19th of May. I was working in the Caribbean. I had a break. I went home on October because the matter was set for 15th of October 2021. And you will recall when I turned up in court, the same Ramana and other policemen are in court, in the courtroom compound, in the court compound, to arrest me for the same charge that I appeared in court for. Right? I went there, I was put on bail. I am still on bail. I tell you, the facts are there, you know. I ain't got nothing for hide, I got nothing to be ashamed of. All right. So I had to travel back out to the Caribbean to work. And in this, I had a discussion with my lawyer. And I said it to him. I say, I know these people vindictive. I'm going to leave to go to work, and they're going to stop me. They're likely to stop me at the airport from traveling, claiming that I have a matter before the court, even though I know it was unconstitutional. The lawyer agreed with me and decided that we were going to move to the High Court to get an application for me to get permission to travel abroad to work. This is not on vacation. I was traveling to work. The contract was there. All the evidence was produced to see that I was going to work. We filed an application. The matter came up before the Chief Justice, the Honorable Madam Roxanne George. The Attorney General Anil Nandlall himself appeared, in those days it was via Zoom, himself appeared to oppose the application. In other words, he said I should not leave the country. And this is not a representative from the Attorney General's chamber. The Attorney General himself appeared. Eventually, the Chief Justice allowed me to travel. Of course, I had to leave large transport and all kind of surety in order to travel and to return by a particular date. I traveled and I returned. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I returned as directed by the Chief Justice. Now I had to travel again. So therefore, a new application had to be made. We made the application. Again, the Attorney General objected to me traveling. Even though I traveled, let me give the sequence, I tell you I live in this man, Ed Renfree, I traveled into Guyana on the 13th of October 2021 for the sole purpose of attending court on the 15th of October. That is in response to a summons applied for by Christian Nat Romana. When I turned up in court, Romana is there to arrest me in respect to this same matter, right? I moved to the court after putting bail to travel. The Attorney General in person appeared to object to me leaving the country to travel. I left, large transport from my house and all this other thing. I came back as directed by the court. Then I had to leave to go and work again. Again, Nandlall objected for a second time for me to leave the country. He objected in one of these cases. Comrade Leo, I got to write these things down. In one of the cases, in one of the hearings, the Attorney General Anil Nandlall, SC, MP, signed an affidavit in the matter. When the Chief Justice signed, the Chief Justice had to ask him, Mr. Nandlall, how can you sign an affidavit? You're the lawyer representing the police. The police were the respondent. And he signed an affidavit. He said, well, he's a lawyer representing the police. He said, yeah, but you cannot sign the affidavit. Somebody from the police must sign the affidavit. You are just a lawyer representing him. So that is how much I live. That is how I occupy this man thinking. That is how. And then let me tell you, I had to apply again. So on the second occasion, the matter came up before Justice Singh, Navenger Singh, and I was allowed to travel and to return. I traveled and I returned. Again, I said I'm a law-abiding citizen. I had to leave a third time. By this time, I hadn't contract. We applied, and the Solicitor General was there, and it's not until that third time that they say that they were not going to object to me leaving the country. On the third occasion, the first two, of course, it costs you a lot of money to the thing, and that is the intention, that is the aim, costs you a lot of money, right? Not until the third occasion that they say, well, they have no objection to me leaving. Well, since then, the same judge has ruled that the police has no authority to prevent the person who is charged with a criminal offense from leaving the jurisdiction. They have to go to the court to get an order. So that is how I live in this manner. And let me say this, so give it the background. And you can't be surprised. I am not surprised, because the Attorney General is the same person that the Caribbean Court of Justice said he brought that institution into disrepute. Remember in the election petition matter, where the decision was embargoed, issued to the lawyers, and he went ahead and he made on his page a premature release. He claimed that it wasn't him, it was the administrator. And some scathing remarks on the Caribbean Court of Justice claiming that the Attorney General of Guyana brought that institution into disrepute. That means saying so the Caribbean Court of Justice. So when he writes these things, one should not be surprised. But let me go on to tell you some of the things he said in the letter. He claimed in the letter that the letter from the Permanent Secretary was not even addressed to Mr. Api, but to the Commissioner of Police, Leslie James. For readers' benefit, I set out the contents of the letter extenso. That is attached. But that's what we're saying. I said that in the letter. And I said, how can you say that Api is appointed when the letter was not even addressed to him, nor even copied to him? So how on what basis is saying that this man was appointed, and then the Attorney General, friends, I believe, look, students, let me tell you this. In one of the paragraphs, the Attorney General of Guyana, the Attorney General is Guyana. This is a man who represents the government's premier law enforcement, the legal advisor. The man is saying, he said, and let me, I'm gonna show you a slide. He said, please, and this is a letter he's quoting from the Permanent Secretary to Leslie James. He said, please be informed that approval has been granted for you to proceed on 274 days pre-retirement leave with effect from 31st of July 2020. And then it said, approval has also been granted for Deputy Commissioner of Police Nigel Appy to perform the functions of the Commissioner of Police. He said, this is in quotation, for Nigel Appy to perform the functions of Commissioner of Police. Friends, let me show, look at this letter. Let me put it up. Look at this letter. And he's referring to this last paragraph. You know, if you could see it properly. This thing had mentioned nothing but performing functions. It said perform duties. And and you might want to say semantics, but the point is, if the Attorney General is quoting a letter, one expects him to quote what is there. You get it in quotes, open quote, close quote. And he's misquoting because he has here functions and he repeat functions several times. I don't know if that was a mistake or deliberate. He repeat in the letter function several times. When at no stage in this letter, it says that Appy should perform the functions. It says Appy should perform the duties of commissioner. And don't tell me while you might want to say it's just semantics, functions against duties. I am saying that he's quoting. And if he's quoting, that is what they taught me when I went to university. That if you quote, you got to quote correctly. And if a mistake is made, then you know the sick that you're going to put at the back to indicate that even though it's a mistake, it is a quotation, so you recognize it's a mistake. But he has not done that. He has not done that. He quote, and then he goes on to say, to the rational reader, it must be excruciatingly clear from this letter that the Commissioner of Police was proceeding on 274 days of pre-retirement leave, after which he will retire. Therefore, the Commissioner of Police would have been unable to perform the functions of his office for 274 days, after which the office will become vacant. We ain't saying that's exactly what we say. Exactly, let me read further. He further says, the pith and substance of Mr. Slowe's bold contention is that the Permanent Secretary can simply employing a linguistic formulation to perform the functions of commissioner. Again, the lady never said perform the functions via a letter. Hijack the process and procedure enshrined in the supreme law of this land and deprive the supreme executive authority of the Republic of its vested functional responsibility for appointing a person to act in the office of Commissioner of Police. Functions again. Then he said, prudent readers will quickly discern the legal heresy which inheres in Mr. Slowe's pontification. He like use fancy words, you know, pontification. And then he goes on, I'm going to analyze further. Then he goes on to say, here, let me read this part. I remember I said that, and my letter is there. I encourage everybody to go and read the letter. I said that Appy never even wore the badge of rank of Commissioner of Police because Appy recognized that he was not acting as commissioner. I pointed out in the letter that Clifton Ikin, who was controversially appointed to act as commissioner, has been wearing the badge of rank of Commissioner of Police. That is a cross, wreath and stave, a crown and a pip. I even pointed out on this program that he did so prematurely and he wore them in incorrect order. So he has been wearing. So Nandlall response to that is that the rule of law will not countenance with that. Let me read this part that I wanted to make it. He said that Appy choose the fact that Appy choose not to don the paraphernalia badge is really of no moment. Oh man, the man like to use the word. In other words, he's saying the fact that Appy chose to not to wear the badge of rank is of Commissioner of Police is not of any importance. I'm gonna address that too. And then inform, I roll up my sleeve and then inform. And then he says here, and here they say now, let me address this part. He said, inexplicably, Mr. Slowe dedicated quite a few paragraphs to ranting and wailing against His Excellency's appointment of Mr. Clifton Ikin to act in the office of Commissioner of Police. I ain't gonna quote you any further. I encourage you to go and read the letter. But let me tell you what I gonna respond. Here what this man called ranting and raving. In the letter that I wrote, hold on, let me think. You got a cockroach coming up here with something. Let me deal with the cockroach, man. You know, I'll tell you, I ain't taking, hold on. When they come with the nonsense, I can just deal with them. Are you bear with me? Let me just deal with this person in a quick time. Right. So, all right. So, the thing is, the man said, as I've said, down to the penultimate paragraph, the second last paragraph, he said, inexplicably, Mr. Slowe dedicated quite a few paragraphs to ranting and wailing against His Excellency's appointment of Mr. Clifton Ikin to act. And he said, and here again, this is the Attorney General, you know. Let me point out again. I know it's bright by, but some basic things that I speak up. Hear what he says. Inexplicably, Mr. Slowe dedicated quite a few paragraphs to ranting and wailing against His Excellency's appointment of Mr. Clifton Ikins, Hicken apostrophe S. Go back, Mr. Clicken, Hicken apostrophe S, to act in the office of Commissioner of Police. Well, I know what the little teacher that I got, maybe to QC and all in places like he, but I know apostrophe that say is possessive. And what should come after that show ownership and all that. But me know how apostrophe S is appropriate there. But anyhow, the boy must be a little tired, and the boy get a lot of things in here. You remember I tell you a lot of things in here. But here what this man called about this wailing. In the letter that I wrote, I mentioned Ikin name on 2 occasions. Let me give the context in which it was measured. Let me give the context. In one of the paragraphs, I said it is opposite to note that Assistant Commissioner Clifton Ikin, who was controversially appointed to act as Commissioner of Police, has been wearing the badge of rank of Commissioner of Police since his appointment. That is one time I mentioned. The next time his name was mentioned, I said in the challenge is another paragraph. In the challenge to the appointment of Assistant Commissioner Clifton Ikin to act as Commissioner of Police, it was submitted that Article 211 was not complied with, in that there was no consultation with the opposition leader. The government contended that there was no leader of the opposition at the time of the appointment in March 2022, and because of the importance of the office of Commissioner of Police, it was necessary for the appointment to be made. That's the only 2 times I mentioned Clifton Ikin's name in the letter. Go and look at it for yourself. And the Attorney General claimed that inexplicably, Mr. Slowe dedicated quite a few paragraphs. This is the Attorney General, you know, a lawyer. The state's primary law advisor. That is what he is saying in the letter. But before I bring in CC, let me point out something more, man. First of all, I noted in the letter that the Attorney General wrote, that name signed to it, you know. So I ain't doing like the police cooperate communication unit to say allegedly and all of that. He right, the thing is signed, his name signed by it. It's signed at the end of the letter, yours faithfully, Moabir Anil Nandlall, SC, MP, Attorney General, and Minister of Legal Affairs. So that is what he said. I noted that when he started out the letter, I hereby respond to a letter by Paul Slowe, published in the Stabrook News dated 10th of September 2023. Paul Slowe. He just said, Mr. Later on, he called me Minister. But I want to tell you this, Attorney General. The letter was not published by Paul Slowe. If you want to get technical, the letter you're talking about was published by Paul Slowe, CCH, DSM, Assistant Commissioner of Police retired, and former chairman of the Police Service Commission. Let me remind you, let me repeat that. The letter that you speak of, published on the 10th in Stabrook News, was published by Paul Slowe, CCH. That is a Kasi Krong, this is a national award, Kasi Krong Award. DSM, there's another national award.